We've been together 7 years, married for 4. We did the whole stable couple thing, small wedding, boring furniture, shared Netflix, inside jokes about our neighbors, all that. And then we had a baby. You'd think that would be the part that breaks you. The sleepless nights, the screaming, the blowouts that violate the Geneva Convention. But no. The baby was hard, sure. My wife's secret was harder. The night everything quietly started in my head, it was 3 a.m. The room was dark except for that tiny blue glow from the baby monitor and the hallway light leaking under the door. I was standing by the crib, doing what I call the zombie sway. You know, when you just gently rock side to side and hope something, anything, will make the baby shut up for longer than 8 seconds. He finally started to calm down. Big eyes, tiny face, that little frown babies have when they're half asleep and annoyed at reality. And out of nowhere, my brain just went, huh, weird. I don't see me. Not the usual. Oh, he has your nose, or he has her eyes. It was more like, if someone showed me this baby and said, pick the parents from this lineup, I'd probably fail. I tried to brush it off. I mean, babies look like potatoes for the first few months. But the thought didn't just disappear. It sat somewhere behind my eyes, like a notification I hadn't swiped away. The next morning, I decided to mention it in the most casual, not insane way possible. My wife was in the kitchen in her oversized hoodie, hair in a messy bun, making coffee and scrolling on her phone. I came in with the baby in my arms, did the whole look at this adorable gremlin routine and said, "Hey, do you think he looks more like you or me?" She didn't even look up right away. "Kids change every week," she said, reaching for the sugar. "Newborns don't look like anyone. They're just baby-shaped." "Yeah, I know," I said. "It's just funny. I don't see either of us yet." That's when she looked at me, really looked, like she was scanning my face for something. "You've been Googling, haven't you?" she said, half smiling. "Don't start with that nonsense. The internet will make you think your kid is secretly an alien if you read long enough." I laughed because that sounded reasonable. It was reasonable. "Relax, Sherlock," she added, bumping my shoulder as she walked by. "He's yours. He's mine. He's just puffy and confused right now." I laughed again, kissed her forehead, tried to let it go. But you know that feeling when your brain hears one thing and your gut hears another? My brain, she's right. Babies change. My gut, that sounded like a pre-made speech. I didn't say anything else. I'm not insane enough to start a "does my child look like me?" War 5 weeks after birth, I just filed the moment away in the folder in my mind. The real problem wasn't even how he looked. It was the math. I'm not a genius, but I can count months. We had tried for a baby, but not in the obsessive way. More like, we're not preventing whatever happens, happens. There was one particular month when she told me, all excited, that she thought it finally happened. "I'm late," she said, waving a pregnancy test like a golden ticket. "I'm pretty sure this is it." We did the tests, the doctor visits, the congratulations. Everyone was happy. I was happy. Then life went into pre-baby panic mode. Fast forward to birth. The due date shifted a bit. Doctors said something about it being an estimate, all that. I didn't question it. I was too busy worrying about car seats and not dropping the baby on his head. But sitting there one evening, maybe 2 months after he was born, that math popped into my head like a pop-up ad. Wait, if she got pregnant then, and he was born now? I grabbed my phone, opened the calendar, started counting back. Paused, counted again. A small, uncomfortable realization started forming. I walked into the living room where she was half watching some show and half scrolling TikTok. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Do you remember when we actually conceived? Like, which month it was exactly?" She frowned, like the question annoyed her. "Why?" she asked. "I was just looking at the calendar and I feel like the dates don't quite line up." I laughed, like it was a joke. "Maybe I'm just bad at counting." She shrugged. eyes back on her phone. Due dates are estimates. They can be off by weeks, she said. The baby came a bit early, they already told us that. Yeah, but when do you think it happened? I insisted, still in that joking tone. Just curiosity. She shifted on the couch. I don't know, James, she said. We weren't exactly circling days on the wall. Can we not obsess about this? The baby is here, that's what matters. There it was again. Not just annoyance, avoidance. The subject wasn't just boring for her, it was radioactive. I forced a smile. Okay, just me overthinking. Exactly, she said. New dad brain. You're tired. Go take a nap. We moved on. On the surface, anyway. The thing about suspicion is that it doesn't start at 100%. It's like a bar that slowly fills up over time. First, it's a flicker. Then a pattern. Then a problem. The pattern started showing up in small, stupid ways. Anytime someone made a comment about the baby's features, my wife would tense up for half a second before smiling. Every single time, she would jump in with some variation of, "Kids change all the time." At first, I thought I was reading too much into it. Then came the family gathering. We were at her parents' place. Standard weekend family chaos. Too much food, kids running around, her mom complaining about politics, her dad arguing with the TV. Our baby was being passed around like a very fragile hot potato. Her cousin Mike was holding him, doing that high-pitched baby voice grown men suddenly develop when they hold infants. He smiled, looked at our son, then at us, and said in the most harmless, zero-malice tone, "What a cute baby. I just don't see either of you in him yet." It was a nothing comment. Literally something you say when you don't know what else to say. Her reaction was instant. Her back straightened, her jaw tightened, and she shot him a look that could have boiled water. "Kids change," she snapped. "Don't start analyzing." The room went weirdly quiet for a second. Mike blinked. "Hey, I didn't mean, just saying," she cut him off. "It's weird when people do that. He's a baby, not a puzzle." I stepped in, tried to lighten it up. "Relax," I said, half laughing. "Mike is harmless. He still can't match socks in the laundry. He's not going to crack some genetic code." People laughed, the moment softened, conversation moved on. But I caught the look she gave me. Not gratitude, not amusement. It was, "Shut up and don't join in." On the way home, she was quiet. I drove. The radio played something soft and annoying. "You okay?" I asked. "I just hate when people say stuff like that," she muttered. "Like, are they trying to imply something? It's rude." "He didn't mean anything," I said. "You know Mike. His brain and his mouth aren't always on speaking terms." She sighed. "Yeah, well, people should think before they talk." I almost said, "Funny, that's exactly what I think right now," but I swallowed it. Instead, I said, "You know he's mine, and I know he's mine. That's what matters." She looked at me quickly, like she was checking if I was serious. "Of course he's yours," she said. "Why would you even say that?" "I'm just saying," I replied slowly. She stared out the window the rest of the ride. After that day, the phone habit started. Before, her phone could be lying around anywhere. Couch, table, kitchen counter, bathroom. She didn't care. If it buzzed, I might glance at the screen, read a notification, nothing dramatic. Then suddenly, phone always face down, screen lock time went from lazy 30 seconds to blink and it's black. If it buzzed, she'd reach for it like it was a grenade. One night, around 11 p.m., we were in bed. She was turned slightly on her side, phone in hand, the screen lighting up her face. I was half scrolling, half falling asleep. Her phone buzzed a few times. She typed. Screen face down, then up again. Type, face down, repeat. "Who are you texting?" I asked, not even suspicious yet, just curious. "Emma," she said without looking at me. "She's going through some stuff." Emma is her best friend, totally plausible. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Girl drama. Boring." I waited a beat. "Can I see?" I joked. I love boring drama. It makes me feel better about my own life. She locked the phone instantly, like muscle memory. No, she snapped, then quickly added, it's private, it's not about you. I raised an eyebrow. Okay, calm down, I said. I was kidding. She forced a little laugh, then put the phone on her side far from me. You're being weird, she said. I almost replied, I learned from the best, but again I swallowed it. The real punch to the gut came a few days later. It was a Sunday. She said she needed to take a call and stepped into the hallway. Nothing unusual, except she clearly assumed I stayed in the living room. But I didn't. I walked into the nursery to grab a clean onesie, and the door was slightly open. The hallway was quiet. She didn't hear me moving around, and her voice carried perfectly. No, he hasn't asked anything, she said in that low, tense tone people use when they don't want to be heard. I just hope it all calms down. I froze in place, a tiny blue onesie in my hand. Another muffled voice responded. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. Her tone answered it. I know, I can't talk about this right now. She ended the call quickly. A second later, she pushed the nursery door open, pretending everything was normal. Oh, there you are, she said with that too bright smile. I thought you were in the living room. Just getting clothes, I said calmly. Oh, there you are, she said, sounding a bit too bright. He asleep? Yeah, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Who was that? She hesitated for half a second. It was small, but visible. Emma, she said. She's freaking out about her job again. Emma must be the busiest person on this planet, given how much imaginary drama she generates lately. Ah, I nodded. Want tea? My wife said, forcing a chuckle. Sure, I answered. I'll be there in a minute. She left. I stood there, staring at the baby, my jaw clenched. He doesn't suspect. I hope it all calms down. That was the moment the bar in my head filled from, maybe I'm paranoid too. Okay, something is very, very off. But I still didn't explode. I didn't scream or accuse or start a fight. For better or worse, that's not who I am. I'm not the guy who flips the table at the first sign of trouble. I'm the guy who gets very, very quiet and starts taking notes. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of the baby. He actually slept better than usual, the tiny traitor. But because my brain spent hours pacing back and forth like a security guard on the night shift. That one line kept replaying. He hasn't asked anything. Asked what exactly? I didn't know. But I knew she wasn't talking about Emma's imaginary job drama. By the next morning, I'd shifted into a mode I didn't even know I had. Quiet, polite, hyper-focused observation. The kind where you don't accuse, you just watch. And once you start watching, the world suddenly gets louder. Her phone became impossible to ignore. If it buzzed while she was cooking, she'd snatch it up like someone was about to detonate it. One time I literally reached past her for a fork and she flinched so hard you'd think I was going for her PIN code. You okay? I asked. I'm just tired, she said, giving me a smile that didn't reach her eyebrows. Later that afternoon, she announced she was going to take a shower. Great, normal, healthy behavior, except 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 20. And the water wasn't running. I knocked lightly. Everything okay? Yeah, she yelled way too quickly. When she finally came out, her hair was bone dry and she was holding her phone like it had survived a kidnapping. I raised an eyebrow without saying a word. What? She snapped. Nothing, I said. Just impressed at how you somehow showered without water. She glared like I'd offended her ancestors and stomped away. I didn't chase. I didn't argue. I just watched. A couple of days later, things went from, that's weird, to, okay, what the hell is happening? We were running out of diapers and she said she'd run to the store. Totally normal. She grabbed her jacket, her purse, and walked out. 30 seconds later, the door opened again. She'd forgotten her keys. Except when she grabbed them off the counter, Her phone lit up with an incoming call. Name on the screen, Mark, work. Now here's the thing. My wife works in an office with two Emilys, a Jessica, a Brianna, another Brianna spelled weird, an intern named Cal, and one guy who wears suspenders like he's on a farm in 1923. Not a single Mark. She saw me glance at the screen. Her eyes went wide for a half second, just a flick. And then she slammed the phone face down so fast she nearly cracked the case. "Oh," she said, forcing casualness. "It's just work stuff. Boring." "Since when do you have a Mark?" I asked lightly, like I was genuinely curious. "He's new," she said instantly. The kind of instantly that feels rehearsed. I nodded slowly. "Ah, got it." She stared at me like she was waiting for a fight. I didn't give her one. "Don't forget the diapers," I said with a smile. Her face softened with confusion. Maybe guilt, maybe relief, hard to tell. She left in a hurry. 20 minutes later, she came back with the diapers, and a level of jittery energy you don't get from buying baby supplies. I didn't say a word. Because at this point, something was very clear. She wasn't just hiding messages. She was hiding a whole side of her life, and panicking that I might accidentally open the wrong door and walk right into it. You can ignore one red flag, maybe two. But by the time you're replaying someone's tone in your head at night and catching them lying about a man named Mark who may or may not exist, the bar of suspicion is full. But suspicion isn't proof. And I'm not the kind of man who blows up his life based on gut feelings. I'm the kind of man who double-checks, which is exactly when the idea hit me, quietly, calmly, like someone sliding a folder across a desk in a spy movie. You could just test it. And that's how the next part of my life began, with me standing in the kitchen at midnight, holding my phone and Googling how to do an at-home paternity test without looking like a psychopath. I wish I could say I hesitated, that I wrestled with the moral dilemma, paced around, stared out the window like a tortured poet. Nope. Once the idea appeared, it just settled. Calm, cold, logical. Because here's the thing, when someone chooses secrecy over honesty, they don't leave you many options. I wasn't going to start fights or beg her to trust me or play the guessing game. I wanted facts. At-home DNA tests aren't hard to find. There's a whole industry dedicated to people who want to discover they're actually 4% Scandinavian or that their uncle isn't really their uncle. I found a reputable brand, ordered a kit, and had it delivered to a pickup locker near my office. The kit arrived 2 days later. I shoved it in my backpack and didn't tell a soul. I hid it in the garage, because if my wife had developed one new talent recently, it was appearing behind me at random like a guilty ninja. The hardest part wasn't ordering the test, it was getting the sample. You don't exactly walk up to a newborn and say, "Open wide for daddy's existential crisis." I waited for the right moment. And by right moment, I mean the first time she wasn't breathing down my neck. It came on a Thursday afternoon. She said she was going to her friend Julia's place. The moment the door closed, my heart went into cardio mode. I grabbed the kit, washed my hands, because I didn't want the lab to think they were testing a cheeseburger, and approached the crib. "Hey, buddy," I whispered. "Sorry about this. Daddy needs to solve a mystery." The baby, ever helpful, was asleep. Perfect. I gently swabbed the inside of his cheek. It took 2 seconds. He didn't even twitch. If only everything else in life were that easy. I put the sample into the little envelope, sealed it, packed it exactly like the instructions said, triple-checking like I was defusing a bomb, and drove straight to the drop-off box. 1 week, the instructions said. 5 to 7 business days. A week doesn't sound long until you're living inside it. The next 7 days were strange. Every evening she watched me like I might suddenly break down into tears or slam the table or ask, "So, any new friends named Mark today?" But I didn't do any of that. I cooked dinner, I played with the baby, I cleaned bottles, I laughed at dumb memes. I let her think everything was fine. Inside, though, Inside, I felt like I was waiting for a jury verdict in slow motion. Little things felt sharper now. Her fake smiles, her constant checking of her phone, her habit of locking the bathroom door even when she was brushing her teeth. One night, she said, "You've been really quiet lately." I shrugged. "Just tired." "Is everything okay?" "Sure." She waited, clearly expecting more. I didn't give her anything. For once, she was the one who didn't know what I was thinking. On the 6th day, I woke up before my alarm. Not because I'm disciplined, but because my brain never truly shut off that entire week. I checked my email. Nothing. I checked again an hour later. Nothing. At lunch, still nothing. By the evening, I started wondering if the universe was trying to protect me from something I wasn't ready to hear. And then, at 10:42 p.m., a notification. "Your results are ready." I stared at the screen long enough that it dimmed. My chest didn't tighten. I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. I just felt cold, focused. I clicked the link, logged in, opened the report. Probability of paternity, 0%. 0. Not unlikely, not low probability. Just a clean mathematical 0. I sat there in the dark, letting the words settle. I thought I'd feel heartbreak, sadness, anger, maybe something dramatic. But none of that came. Instead, my mind went completely clear. The same clarity you get right before making a big decision. A calm voice in my head said, "Okay, now we know." And with that, something inside me, something heavy, confusing, anxious, simply switched off. Now it was just a matter of what I was going to do with it. The first thing I did was look at the baby. Our son, or, well, her son. I didn't feel anger toward him. Why would I? He didn't fill out an application for this job. He was just a tiny, confused potato trying to navigate life. Then I started working. Step 1, timeline audit. While she was asleep, I sat on the couch with the soft glow of my phone and scrolled back through calendars, photos, messages, everything. I checked my work trips, her girls' nights, our schedules, doctor appointments, the month she got pregnant, the day she insisted she was with Emma. And like a bad puzzle with cheap glue, the pieces began falling apart. One example. She told me she was at Emma's one Friday night. I scroll. Emma's Instagram that day, a picture of her in pajamas with a face mask on captioned, "Lazy night in." So unless Emma has learned to teleport, my wife wasn't there. Another, she said she got home late because she and Julia talked for hours. Except Julia texted me the next morning. "Hey, tell your wife thanks for the recipe. So good, I went to bed early, haha." I kept digging. It wasn't even hard. I didn't need hacker skills. I just needed basic pattern recognition. And everything pointed to one thing. She had been lying for a long, long time. By 2 a.m., I was still calm, focused, sharp. So I moved to step 2, her old phone backup. A few months earlier, she got a new phone. She transferred everything, but the old backup still lived in our shared cloud, because neither of us is responsible enough to manage digital storage. I clicked. It opened without a password. The universe really said, "Here, buddy, enjoy." Inside the backup were thousands of messages. I scrolled randomly at first, then I found what I wasn't even looking for. A chat with her friend. "If he starts digging, I'm screwed." Another message. "I can't deal with this forever. I hope it dies down." Interesting choice of words when discussing your husband. And then I found a chat with someone I did recognize. The friend of the family, a guy who'd been at barbecues, helped once with our fence, always overly friendly. Their conversation wasn't explicit, no poetic sexting, no weird emojis, but the vibe was unmistakable. "We shouldn't talk about this anymore. It's complicated now. Just act normal around him." Around him. Oh, I see. There were a few photos too, deleted from her phone but not from the backup. At a party. Everyone a little tipsy. Her too close to him, his hand on her back. her leaning into him in a way wives don't lean into men who aren't their husbands. Nothing nuclear, but enough to draw the shape of the truth. I clicked the next photo, and the next. Each one added a dot. Together, they made a picture. Step 3. Second test. I'm not stupid. I wasn't going to confront her with a home test she could dismiss as fake, contaminated, or something you bought from a shady website. So the next morning, while she was in the shower and the baby was still half asleep, I gently took another cheek swab from him. The exact way the lab instructions said. 2 seconds. He didn't even open his eyes. I told her I had an early meeting and left the house, this time with both samples, mine and his, sealed in the lab's official collection kit. No suspicion, no drama. Just a quiet morning errand. They took samples, legally, cleanly, officially. 3 days later, I got the message. 0%. Again, double tap, confirmed kill. The guessing was over. The story had a shape now, and shapes can be dealt with. I sat in the car outside our house, looking at the 2 PDFs in my email, one from the home test, one from the lab, and thought, all right, time to end this politely. I didn't want a fight. I didn't want a screaming match. I didn't want the cliché drama. I wanted the truth on the table, and my freedom on the other side. So I walked into the house like it was any normal day. Because the storm wasn't coming anymore, it was already here, and I was finally ready to walk through it. I didn't rush into it. 2 tests, both 0%. The phone backup, the photos, the timeline. At that point, confronting her wasn't a question of if, only when. So I cooked dinner. A quiet one. Pasta, salad, nothing heavy. I poured her a glass of wine and took a beer for myself. She looked confused, like she expected me to ask why her phone had been glued to her hand for the last month. Instead, I asked about her day, told her about my meeting, which was really me handing DNA samples to a lab, and complimented her hair. She kept glancing at me like I was a bomb with a ticking timer. After dinner, I cleared the table and came back with 2 envelopes. Not dramatic, not theatrical, just neat. I placed them in front of her. She blinked. What's that? Open them, I said calmly. She hesitated, then opened the first envelope, the official lab results. Her face drained instantly, like someone pulled the plug out of her soul. The paper shook in her hands. This isn't right, she whispered. Open the second one, I said. She did. The home test. Same result, 0%. She stared at both sheets like they were written in a language she didn't speak. Then the cycle began. First came denial. No, this is wrong. It's impossible. You must have mixed up the samples. Maybe the test is faulty. I stayed still, my voice steady. There were 2 tests, I said, from 2 different places. She shook her head so hard her hair whipped her face. You're insane. Why would you do this? Who does this? This is sick. Now, anger. Oh, wow, I said, leaning back. We're already at the blame me for finding out stage? Fast service tonight? You're accusing me of something horrible, she snapped. I'm not accusing, I corrected her. I'm reading. I tapped the papers. This. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked like she was trying to pick the right mask to wear. Next came deflection. You're going to ruin our family. Do you understand that? Our son needs you. He loves you. You're his father in every way that matters. He's not my son, I said quietly. And you knew that. Her face broke for a second. Just a second. But I saw it. The truth flashed through her eyes before she clamped the mask back on. Then came guilt-tripping. You can still be his dad, she whispered, tears welling instantly. We can fix this. Couples get past things like this. Please don't do anything rash. I'm not rash, I said. I'm methodical, you know that. She reached for my hand across the table. I didn't move mine. Her fingers hovered in the air, trembling. "James," she whispered, "we can talk about this. I swear I will explain everything. Just tell me what you want. Tell me how to fix it." "I want the truth," I said. She froze, then suddenly stood up and grabbed her phone like it was a life jacket. "I need to call someone," she muttered, pacing toward the living room. I didn't stop her. She dialed, and in her panic she accidentally hit speaker. A man's voice answered immediately. "Is he there? Did he find out?" The room went dead silent. I didn't move. She didn't breathe. She fumbled to turn off speaker mode, but her hands were shaking. "Yes," she whispered. "He knows." I stood up slowly, not angry, not dramatic, just done. I walked past her, went to the bedroom, and started packing a duffel bag. One drawer at a time, calm, quiet, like I was packing for a boring business trip. Behind me, she ran in, sobbing. "Please don't do this," she cried. "Please. I made a mistake. I was scared. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You can't just leave." "I already did," I said, zipping the bag. She blocked the doorway like she was guarding a kingdom. "You can't walk out on us." "There is no us," I said. "You made sure of that." She broke then, real crying, real panic. But the truth is, it was far, far too late. I walked past her gently, not shoving, not pushing, just moving around her like she was furniture that got placed in the wrong spot. On my way out, she grabbed my arm. "James, please, I love you." I looked her in the eyes. "No," I said softly. "You love not being alone. That's different." I stepped outside. The night air felt like freedom. I got in my car, pulled out of the driveway, and didn't look back. Not once. I moved into a small one-room apartment after everything exploded. Quiet street, clean walls, no baby toys, no forced cheerfulness, no lies vibrating in the air like background noise. Just peace. The kind of peace you don't realize you've been missing until you finally sit down, breathe out, and nothing in the room wants anything from you. One night, with a whiskey glass in my hand and the soft hum of the fridge as background music, the rest of the story finally came to me. Not from her, of course. She wasn't in the honesty business, but from mutual friends who couldn't keep their mouths shut even if you paid them. The father was exactly who I suspected, the so-called family friend. The guy who always volunteered to help with house projects. The guy who showed up early to every barbecue. The guy who joked about how I worked too much and should let loose. They'd been hooking up behind my back for months, long before the surprise pregnancy, long before the excited smile and the "I'm late" speech she gave me in the kitchen. Apparently, the plan was simple. Get pregnant by him, convince me it was mine, and lock down the stable husband life while keeping the fun guy on the side. She hit it easily because she prepared the script. She told me she was pretty sure she was pregnant, exactly when she wanted me to believe the conception happened. She leaned heavily on the doctor's "due dates are just estimates" line. She avoided talking about timelines. She overreacted to any comment about who the baby looked like. She strategically used Emma and Julia as human shields for her alibis. And she assumed, correctly for a while, that I trusted her too much to ever check. It was a simple scheme, cruel but simple. We divorced quietly. No screaming matches, no dramatic courtroom scenes. Just signatures, paperwork, and silence. She moved back in with her parents for a while. From what I heard, things didn't work out with her family friend. Apparently, Fun Guy wasn't thrilled about being the actual father rather than the illegal second shift. Not my problem anymore. As for me, I'm not rebuilding. I'm not starting over. I'm just living. My apartment is mine. My time is mine. My peace is mine. I still think about the baby sometimes. He didn't ask for any of this, and I hope he ends up okay. He deserved better than the mess his mother created around him. The DNA test didn't break my family. It just showed me I never actually had one. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.